Greetings to all of you in radio and internet land. I am your presenter, Dr. Joe Baba. This is episode 5. And the title is Good Neighborliness and a Just Merit System. Good neighborliness and a just merit system. Clapping, clap, Adewayo, Fuede, Abisie Nuswa. I believe it. Be more you. I want to be same boy. Be penny. I hope the boss woo. Majani, Ayakune, Ipo, Kasivika, Kasam. I Nisoma, Salamaluku, Lemku Salam. Greetings to all of you in the blessed name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. May His Spirit continue to abide by us, and that His Spirit may give us the strength, the power to listen to His words and to love our neighbors as ourselves as we begin a lecture on good neighborliness and a just merit system. But I want to continue to greet all of you in various Liberian vernaculars because this is the trend that we want to take to make sure that our society will be a wholesome, functioning society for all of us. When I clever or tuan guibo, so zinawo, I said, Joe, or ye pao, ya cafe you, ya, a cafe you, and ye trio, and ye mama blarao, bloba mama, and ye blarao. I will get to do you. But why? Kumenju. Babwa. Bavo. Let's get to business. Episode 5. Good neighborliness and a just merit system. Greetings to all of you in radio and internet land. I'm your presenter, Dr. Joe Baba. In episode 4, we focused on how we can restore our national and family values by living our traditional Liberian African beliefs and customs, and by institutionalizing them in our national curriculum, textbooks, literature, and other forms of socio-cultural manifestations. We discussed how necessary it is for us to learn how to speak our traditional Liberian languages and patois so they can be preserved and not get forgotten. We also mentioned how important it is for us to take our children and families in the hinterland and regions from where our parents and our ancestors originated, so that we may connect with our blood relatives and learn the traditions of our forefathers and foremothers and the norms and values of the ethnic group of which we are members. Further, we touched on the need for there to be consistency between values we teach our children at home and at school and the implementation of those same values in real life situations. So if we told the children in the home that stealing is a bad habit, therefore we who are adults and who are holding public positions must also demonstrate to the youth that stealing is a bad habit. So therefore, we as adults must not commit stealing or theft, because then it will give the children a bad and false impression about how to achieve life or success without a merit or just merit system. Further, as I said, we touched on the need for there to be consistency between values we teach our children at home and at school and the implementation of those same values in real life situations. For instance, we cannot tell our children stealing is a crime, but in real life, officials of government and individuals steal monies intended to improve the lives of the people, but they are not brought to justice for stealing public money. Instead, we allow them to go free, build huge mansions with the people's money while the masses suffer. Finally, we spoke about observing the principles of behavior modification and applied behavior analysis in meting out punishments and rewards or reinforcements to make sure a just merit system is put in place. In this way, we do not reward or reinforce unacceptable social behaviors in society. Also, there is a dire need for Liberians to stop living double standards and to stop glamorizing crimes, human rights abuse, and injustice in Liberia. Welcome to an hour of national reflection and reconciliation. Again, I'm your host, Rabbi Joe Baba, Executive Director and founder of Decanty Artist Theater, Inc. Let us continue. The title of episode 5 is Good Neighborliness and a Just Merit System. I would like to take you into Liberian homes and neighborhoods to discuss what a typical Liberian neighborhood or community felt like when I was growing up and how it seems today after a bloody civil war. First, let us define who a neighbor is and what the term good neighborliness means and implies. Let us ask the question, who is my neighbor? And what is good neighborliness? I would say your neighbor is someone who lives next door or a couple of doors away from you. You live in a community where your homes are adjacent to each other. Your wife, children, and other members of your household interact, socialize with the others in your immediate environment. The children play and attend the same school as a neighbor's children do. Though there may be cultural differences among residents of this community or neighborhood, Your children and your neighbors' children sit in the same classroom, read the same books, and converse with their peers at school and in the community and learn from each other. Therefore, your neighbor is the closest person to you in the community, apart from your household and family members. Your properties border one another, so your neighbor sees and sometimes overhears your conversations, observes your coming outs and going ins. As a result of your neighbor's closeness to you, the Lord instructs us in the Holy Bible to love our neighbors as ourselves. So this whole thing about my neighbor, about good neighborliness, is something that is very important as we transition from a period of war to a period of peace and civility. Peace and civility will prosper if we as individuals, we as family members, we as community members will remember that saying that we must love our neighbors as ourselves. They're not asking you to love your neighbors less than yourselves or more than yourselves, but to love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's our golden rule that will keep all of us in one piece, in one unit, as a family, as a community. And I'm going to share some of my youthful days with you and the impression that I got from members of my communities or the communities in which I lived, and the way how the adults, the parents worked together so that all of the children, including themselves, the parents, would be safe, and also that we will coexist peacefully. And so for most of us growing up all the time up to, adulthood, and only up to the time when war broke out in Liberia, did I hear the sound of a gun. Not ever did I ever hear a sound of a gun, with respect to it being used to destroy human lives. The only time I heard guns shoot or the sound of a gun was when my father went hunting. When I accompanied him to go hunting, that would be the only time that I heard the sound of a gun. That's not the situation with over 36% of the population in Liberia nowadays. Why? Because most of you were born during the time when people were shooting guns. And the sound of a gun does affect the mentality of the people. It traumatizes you, especially if it's not just only the sound of the gun, but because also of what you see, those very ugly scenes, loss of lives, valuable human lives. Those things kind of affect your mentality and how you relate to others around you. So, as I said, therefore, when we're talking about our neighbors, That's the closest people near you, the closest people that know about you, that know about your going in and your coming out, that sometimes know your secrets, that you may have confided in them, and or that they may have just, created on their own. But here in this message today, I'm saying that each Liberian must love his fellow Liberian as he loves himself. Every family lives in a community or neighborhood, and within that community and neighborhood live families that come from varied social, cultural, political, economic, and religious backgrounds. Hence, each community has a unique characteristic that differentiates it from the others. Here are some examples of various forms of communities in Morovia back in the day. But before we come to that, let me just help you to understand that wherever you live right now, whatever community you live in right now, you will realize that not everybody in that community, is a member of your ethnic group. Not everybody in that community is a member of the Christian denomination. Not everybody in that community is a Muslim. Not everybody in that community is someone who goes to church. Not everybody in that community is a pastor. People have different professions. People have different beliefs and customs. People speak different languages. So we're talking about different communities in which we live that are very diverse. And because they are diverse, it means that each of us must appreciate the other person. We must appreciate the other person's diversity and differences. Those differences and diversities constitute the beauty of the Liberian political, socio-anthropological matrix. That's who we are as a nation and people. We are a nation and people of many languages, many traditional customs and traditions and beliefs, norms and values. So it's important that we respect one another's value systems. And the best way to do that is for us to begin to respect and love one another, to love our neighbors as ourselves. So for me, as an individual, as a child, I was born in the capital city of Liberia, Monrovia. I was born in a military barracks, BTC, South Beach, Monrovia. And I grew up on the south side of Monrovia in PHP, which is also part of South Beach, Monrovia. And PHP is an acronym for Public Health Pond, because back in the day, the Liberia Public Health Office was based on Lynch Street in the PHP community. And the PHP community got its name from a pond that once existed on South Beach, Lane Street. We used to swim in the pond. and play Bayo Somali. Wow, Somali. We'll go in the pool, in the pond, and we'll start swimming. And it was like tagging one another while swimming. So the title of that kind of play in the water was Bayo Somali, Somali, Bayo Somali, Somali. And then we just plunge in the water and start, chasing one another in the water. But I'm also saying that in PHP, there were many different ethnic groups. So I grew up in a community that had diverse ethnic groups and also diverse uh, persuasions. There were Muslims, there were Christians, and the Christians, there were many denominations. There were Baptists, Assembly of God, Catholic, you know, Methodists, different people, different beliefs. And each whom you went to, depending on their denomination, for instance, with the Christian families, you will find out that their, their norms and values differed from the norms and values of those who were Catholics. The norms and values of the Baptists will be different. The way how they worshipped was different, but notwithstanding, although there were many Christian denominations, yet the overall, picture was that we were all Liberians, but with different denominations. And those different denominations and those choices that we made were not intended to divide us, to say, oh, well, you're Catholic and I'm Baptist, so I cannot deal with you. That isn't the way how you develop a nation to be successful. To develop a nation to be successful, I, as a Catholic, must appreciate my Baptist brother. I must appreciate my Lutheran brother. I must appreciate my Methodist brother. I must appreciate my Episcopalian brother. And also, I must appreciate my Muslim brother, my Jewish brother, my other brother who does not even believe, does not believe in religion. That's not the issue, that's his choice. And all that falls within the concept of democracy. Democracy, which is the rule by the people, of the people. So in order for you to have peace and tranquility in a democratic society, as Liberia claims to be, it means that we must respect one another's choices in life. And that the principle, guiding principle of unity should be that we are all Liberians. And as Liberians, how do we work together to rebuild our country after we've made the mistakes that we made in the past? How do we rebuild it? We can rebuild our country first by beginning to realize that a man or woman who lives next door to you, your neighbor, is your brother and your sister, and that we should love one another and follow that commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. So in my little world, and as a child, in my childhood world, I was surrounded by different communities. I had the PTC, which was an Armed Forces of Liberia Army Barracks that comprised of soldiers from various Liberian ethnic groups. And this composition was diverse in every respect. And then at the eastern end of BTC, towards the executive mansion, the new executive mansion, was Buse quarters, with most of the inhabitants there being members of the Loma ethnic group from Lofa County. But in Buzi quarters, even though it was called Buzi quarters, and Buzi was the name of one of the traditional Loma leaders. And usually the settlers, because they were not acquainted with the history of the indigenous people, so most of the time they will give these random names, that were not related to the history and culture of the people. So because Chief Busi will come to represent the Lama people, they will say, oh, the Busi people are here. Chief Busi and his people are here. The Busi people. But there's no ethnic group in Liberia called Busi ethnic group. That Busi person was a Lama chief. And so that's how that name, developed. But the actual name of the people themselves will be Loma and not Busi. So we have Busi quarters. So the impression that you will get if you heard about Busi quarters and you went to Busi quarter, you would think that everybody there was Loma, or that wasn't the case. There were mixed ethnic groups, there in Busi quarters. And then on the western edge of BTC around Lane Street and UN Drive was PHP. I just explained that to you, that PHP meant Public Health Pond, and that the community got its name from the pond that was there, in that area. And also the pond connected with the Atlantic Ocean. There was a corvette there. So there was also always a force of the water from the pond going to the corvette, to enter into the ocean. And most of the time it would suck in people who were not aware of, that little spot where the force was heavy, and a lot of young people got drowned in that pond, between the pond and the Atlantic Ocean. So our parents were very, 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 very strict on our going to the pond to swim, and or to go on the beach to swim in the ocean. And they would, kind of put up rules and regulations. And sometimes we would go there to go and play, and the sand playing in the beach, the sand would get all in your hair. And when I came back, you went to the beach to play. No, man, they didn't go to the beach to play, but I see what they're saying in you, and they will whip you good. Those days, our corporal punishment, was in style. They'll whip you anytime, give you some lashes. Sometimes they beat you with a belt, or they beat you with a rattan, or they slap you or do something, but discipline was the order of the day. And as I was saying to you, living near the BTC, living near army people, I grew up in communities where there was discipline, rigid discipline. You had to really behave yourself in order for you to be admired. And then again, that's what we're talking about, the merit system. Because when you behaved yourself and you carried yourself well, well, most of the older folks, the adults in a community would kind of reward you in so many ways than one. Sometimes they will give you a little pocket change. Sometimes Miss Lucy will cook and take a little food for you because you've been a good boy, and or because you helped to rake the yard, to clean the place. These little things that we did, we received reward for them, and the rewards were given to us because we did something positive, not because we did something negative. So that's another issue that I'm trying to explain to you guys, that to everyone, that it is wrong for you to reward somebody when they do something that is unacceptable, like when they commit murder, or when they commit theft, or when they commit anything that affects the development of a nation and people, you should not reward them. And rewards can come in different forms, such as, giving somebody a ministerial post after they swindled, $2 million that was designated to construct a hospital. And the next time you hear they're making the 2 o'clock announcement that Peter Johnny, who was allegedly told so and so thing, or did not do so and so thing, is now the so and so of so and so ministry, or this and that. Those kinds of things are the things that are confusing the young people. They're confusing everybody, because that is destroying the value system of the country. It's destroying the value system of the country and the youth, who are our future leaders. If we don't instill in them discipline and teach them what is right by doing what is right as adults and as authorities in the country, we are definitely, destroying the country and destroying the future of our future leaders. So, let's come back to PHP. So in the community, there are all these different ethnic groups grew, and because I live in a diverse population, among a diverse population, like for instance, my crown name was Galode. All my friends, because they couldn't speak, crown well, they call me Gade. Then the Bassa people call me Gadie. They call me Gadie. The crew people call me Kata. Kata. And then they had the Mandingo people there, that lived, in the community too. They were there. There were some Congo people that they Chicks, General Chicks and his people, Old Man Lincoln, all those people were there. How you call them? Sam McLean, them, they were there too, in the PHP area. Lucky Talker, them, they were also there. We had Creole people, so we were all mixed. It was a mixed community. And when you live in a mixed community, you grow up appreciating the different, ethnic groups and languages that you hear around you. And that's how I managed to learn how to say hi, at least, in so many different languages and all of that, because I lived among the people and did not live an isolated life. I was integrated into the life of the community. So the other issue here, as we go towards recovery in Liberia, after the war and all of that, the issue here is about how do we integrate and accept one another's culture and beliefs. That's very, very important with respect to developing in that direction. So as children, we have fun. We go to the pond. We made makeshift canoes, or what we term as boat. It was usually made from an old, drum barrel that we will carve, and fix it so that it seemed like a boat, and we will paddle the boat and ride on the pond, the PHP pond, public health pond. Children in Monrovia, Cinco, and even as far as Congo Town frequented the famous PHP South Beach. We had picnics, football competitions, and the PHP team called St. Jared was invincible. We had great talents like Gray, Anthony Gray, Sapa, Joka Raka, Millie Freeman, Westmore Nambi, Johnny Grant, and many more talents. But guess what? Shh, don't tell anybody my secret. I used to be a magic hand. I mean, real magic hand. When Sapa then beat the bosso, I there. When Joka, come on, look, Jangbe, dribbles all the banana them. They kind of gave me wayward. I did. I was so rotten in goalkeeping that I organized my own football club called Gay Sumu in Zwedru Grand Junior County. It was named in honor of the late David Gay, David Quiddy Gay. And during that time, guess what? They called me Somoyaya Peking. That's my godson John Oduwale. Peking will lay on you. They used to call me Somoyaya. When I'm standing before that goal, nobody to score. Can't see all the girls that singing, Sumuyayae, Adona, Sumuyayae, Adona. They can't see me going from pole to pole, go from pole to pole, and they send that ball, I grab it. Batio, Bati, lecture. Let me lecture you up again. So you will know that we have good days, and you guys can have good days to this if you really live together as brothers and sisters. Okay, so let's get back to the real story. Good neighborliness and a just marriage system. Apart from PHP, there were KK Yard, Passer Community, Slipway, Bishop Brooks, Sony Wen, West Point, New Crew Town, Old Crew Town, Rock Crusher, Vi Town, Clara Town, Gibraltar, Logan Town, Single, Oro, Single Effie, Single behind the transformer, community, Smile Road, etc. Each community had its own unique characteristics. When you go to West Point, you know you're going to West Point. You don't go in there to go full time. West Point, you know you're going to West Point. When you're going to Logan Town, there's a different feeling than going to Logan Town. When you're going to Clara Town to go play, that's a different thing. You're going to New Crew Town, different feeling, different impression. You're going to Cinco, different feeling, different impression, different cultural impressions, and all of that. You go to Payne Avenue, that's a different expectation, socio-cultural expectation. So all these different communities that you live in, the people that live in those communities reflect the overall behavioral pattern of each community. So it's, but you also now as Liberians, you must understand that you don't overlook anyone because you live on Payne Avenue and the person lives in Slipway. Some of the best friends that I had did not live in PHP or only on Payne Avenue. Some of the best friends I had lived in Gibraltar, lived in Logan Town, they live in different parts. But the value system, our value system and our upbringing clicked, and we developed that companionship. And the companionship wasn't based on materialism because this person's father or mother had money, so therefore they will be my friends. No, we looked at one another's personal values. What did you believe in? Were you somebody who spoke the truth? Were you someone who respected others? Well, what was your behavior like? How did you dress? All these things our parents established standards. We had standards. There were certain things that you needed if you wanted to be recognized. There were certain things that you needed to do in your community to be observed in order for you to get to merit that reward. So it wasn't something that we just did a backdoor stuff, we just pass in the back. It was the same thing with our education. They felt that in order for you to be a leader in your country, you must be educated, quote unquote educated, meaning to attend the Western educational system. But you must be able to go through, the grade level, do your academic work, qualify yourself in order for you to be able to get a job, maybe say as an assistant minister. Now, why am I talking about merit system? This is one of the reasons why the elders and people and even the law that were made have certain standards that expect you, certain age you have to reach, or certain property values you must own in order for you to hold certain public positions and all of that, because they wanted people who have property and stuff so that whenever you smuggled anything out of, from national coffers that wasn't yours or whatever it is, they could hold you have a bond for them to do it. But nowadays, they take people, from the street, give them these big jobs. They had nothing before. All of a sudden, they got the whole world, and there's nothing, even if you call them, that you may be able to get as a bond, except maybe the stolen stuff that they already have that you want to take away from them. That's number one. Two, because there are guidelines regarding what kind of qualification someone must hold in order to hold a public office, it's important to adhere to that, because when you give people opportunities that they don't deserve, more than likely they abuse the opportunity. And that is what is going on right now. People are abusing those opportunities that they don't deserve, that they did not prepare themselves for. And so now they're caught in a situation where they are titulars. They are people who are just holding their positions, but don't know the responsibilities that are attached to holding those positions. So there's a lack of a just merit system. And that lack of the just merit system is also continuously depriving those people who followed the laws of the land, those people who trained based on the standards that were established, who have all of the qualifications to even do any more effective jobs, for the country, but are being denied the opportunity because they are not members of the quick service club. And that also is part of what we must be thinking about addressing as a nation and people if we want to move forward. All of these things that I'm talking about are very crucial social, cultural theories and principles that if you don't apply them, and or if we don't continue to educate you as we are doing now regarding uh, uh, um, regarding how we can move from this period of nothingness and stagnation to move forward as an energetic people and motivated people, then we will continue to be where we are. And this is not what the bulk of the Liberian people want. The bulk of the Liberian people, the voters, want a positive change where leaders who are placed in responsible positions nationally will be qualified and must be able to execute the responsibilities and duties that are assigned to them are based on their official appointments. And if they are not able to do so, that the people have a right to request that that person be replaced or that the person resigns or whatever it is. You know, this program is also intended to let you know that you, the electorate, those of you who are the voters, that you have the power to decide at the ballot box who becomes your leader and who does not become your leader. That's your responsibility, and just your responsibility is to just cast that vote, cast the vote in honor, in favor of the person you believe will be sincere, that will not steal your money, that will not take the hospital money and put it in their pocket for you to get sick and die, that will not take the school money to put in their pocket so that your children will become useless and unable to productively, participate in the rebuilding of their country. These are things that you take for granted. And also because you don't know that the power lies in you, the voters. Who you decide to become your leader will become your leader. But if you decide to put somebody in power that does not know what to do and or who doesn't care about you, then you are doing it to yourself, because then the next 6 years or whatever it is, you will have to go through the hardship that you're going through, and you're complaining. Complaining will not do it. What will do it is for you to go to the polls and cast your vote for someone who knows what to do to help move the country forward. So as I was saying about all of these different communities and all of that and diversity, and we're also talking about, um, a good, merit system. So that also is very important. Then also, as we're coming up, um, uh, um, it's important to stress how the different neighborhoods and different communities that are just named. You have a lot of these kinds of communities and neighborhoods throughout the Republic of Liberia. And we're talking about communities. And we want to ask ourselves, what type of communities are they? Some were very poor neighborhoods where criminals resided. Others were struggling communities affected by the uneven distribution of Liberia's wealth, with poor sanitary conditions and struggling families fighting hard to send their children to school and so forth. However, what was common in each of the communities I just listed, the families in those communities looked out for one another. So listen to this story. So we're talking about PHP, we're talking about KKR, we're talking about Bassa Community, we're talking about Slipway, we're talking about Bishop Brooks, Sony Wen, West Point, New Peter. We're talking about all of these places. And as I name these communities, you need to see them and picture them. And I'm sure that many of you know these places that I'm talking about, and to look at the socio-cultural lifestyle of the people in those areas. That reflects the negligence, that reflects the economic and political realities of the country. And when those kinds of things are happening to you and you are forced to live in those deplorable conditions and unsafe conditions, the only hope that you have as voters is for you to go to the polls and cast your vote. When you cast your vote, some of these things can be improved because there are people who represent you in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. who are supposed to be speaking on your behalf. There are people who have been appointed through the executive wing of government who are also responsible to build those roads and streets and hospitals and schools, but are not doing it. So you, the ones that are being affected, and you who are being affected are the ones who got the power to do it. But it seems like it's the few persons who are, playing key roles in the country that they are the ones that got the power. No, this is what you need to understand, that you are the one, the people have the power, not those that you elected. Those that you elected them so that they can do what you want them to do. And if they don't do what you want them to do, you have a right to cast your vote. And each Liberian each eligible voter, Liberian voter, is entitled to one vote. But your one vote plus my one vote plus Peter's one vote and the other person one vote adds up to make the majority. Because in a democracy, it's majority rule. The person that has the highest vote wins, whether or not they are competent. Once you carry out that process and the person gets the highest, the person becomes the winner. That does not mean that because the person had the majority of the votes that that person may be the appropriate person, or the knowledgeable person to solve the problems in the country. But what it means is that you had just cast your vote in the wrong direction. And when you do that, you should expect that things will be wrong for you as well, economically, socially, and politically. So it's important to understand that. We had memories coming up as well, growing up, the people, the adults in our lives, the examples that they showed, the counsels that they provided, all those things helped to make me who I am, helped to make a lot of other people who they are. For an example, in PHP, our neighbors were from various ethnic groups. Pops Francis Cheers Sr. and his beautiful wife, he had a beautiful wife, man. She was so beautiful. Beautiful wife lived adjacent to our home. And then on the left of us was cousin Reverend Frederick Bai, and this house full of fine crown gribble girls that boys wanted to chase. But the Reverend was tough on his girls. Whenever he came from work or out, cousin Frederick will call roll, Anna, maybe, B, and as he kept calling the name, Anna, yes, pa, maybe, yes, pa, B, yes, pa, Tita, yes, pa, like that. And everybody would say, oh, the papa calling roll, making sure that his daughters, they're all in. And those days, the discipline, our parents were so strict that we had curfew. You couldn't stay out that late, if you stayed up 7 o'clock, Liberian Standard Time those days, that's it. By 8 o'clock, you need to be in bed. And not just only in bed, but if we played, because we lived near the beach, so the place was sandy and all of that. So if we played and got all kinds of sand on us, we had to go back and take bath again before going to bed. And most of the time, we will have more time to play over the weekend. But during school days, we had limited time to do that because we had to go in and study. Those were standards. Those were standards that were across the board. All the young people were encouraged to go to school. And when we went to school, our teachers encouraged us to study. So we spent time studying. We may play sports and all of that. But after playing sports, we came home, took bath, ate, did whatever we had to do, and we had to go back to the books. So that was very important. And that is very important. Nobody should tell you that book is not important, because you need to know or gather ideas so that you may use those ideas constructively to rebuild your country. So it's important. So yo. Now you know my name is Wiz. I will see who will pick it up. Back in the day, parents were very strict and they all worked in unison to protect children under their care, as well as those who were not. All adults had and enjoyed supervision rights to counsel, redirect a child who erred or did not exhibit good or respectful manners in public in the absence of his parents. You know, most of the time we will misbehave when our parents not around, you know. But in our days, the old folks had medicine for it. It's not like these days when your parents not around, you do what you want to do. When an elderly person talks to you, you talk back at them and all of that. That never used to happen during our days, because the old folks had one voice, and that voice was to make sure that you were disciplined, that you did not do things that were unacceptable. Thus, adequate supervision, which in this text means keeping an eye on your child 24/7, require the assistance of other adults who may be present when the child parents are not, and the child exhibits an inappropriate or unacceptable social behavior. And I just want to name two ways that they did that they disciplined us. There were two major ways unacceptable behaviors exhibited by a child were handled. One, if you were lucky, meaning if your parents or guardian did not use a switch to discipline you, then he or she might just verbally redirect or counsel you. They might explain why the behavior you exhibited was inappropriate and socially unaccepted, such as using profanity in the presence of others. You would not use profanity. If somebody says something very rude or whatever, so you just say the person used a curse word or something like that. You won't even say the person said this and that. No, you won't say that. You know, that's how, that's the kind of standard our elders set for us, to make sure that we were on path. We're on path. So they might explain why the behavior you exhibited was inappropriate and socially unacceptable, such as profanity in the presence of others. Due to the spirit of good neighborliness, that spirit of good neighborliness obliges you to not stand up or close your eyes when your neighbor's house is burning. It obliges you for you not to ignore your neighbor's child running into trouble when your neighbor is not around. It obliges you not to pass by, but to stand up and say, oh, what's going on here? Oh, this child is my child, that my neighbor's child, that Mr. Simon's child. But what happened, son? Or my people, what happened? What did he do? There was, when we were growing up, there was always some elder in the community when our parents were not around that would stand up and say, no, leave that child, or child, come here. Don't do this again. Don't do that. So we have so many ways, and we have help from the older people telling us what to do and to do the right thing. And that's what we should continue. That's part of the good neighborliness. We should continue that in our communities. When we see a little child doing something wrong, we should help the child to understand that what they're doing is wrong. And also, it applies to those who are even in power, in positions, of public trust. You must demonstrate the acceptable behavior, the legal way of carrying out things, you must demonstrate that it's your responsibility to do it. It's your responsibility to do it. If you want to be a public servant, it's a responsibility to make sure that you follow the law, that you give good example of who you are as a leader, in the country. It's very, very important. So part of good neighborliness has to do with families joining their resources together to improve the livelihoods of all community members. So most of the time, sometimes the community pastor, community people will say, "Oh, we're doing what's that cleanup campaign today because we want our neighborhood, our community to be sanitary, to be clean." You know, that's a project. So people, that good neighborliness can build up to where you are now seeking the interest of all the members of your community, where you are going to your representative and telling them, say, "Look, we don't have roads here in this community here, and we'll put you there so that you can help us, get these things. So what can you do for us to do that?" The members of the community must hold their leaders responsible, because that's why they are there for. And then also this idea of voting, now it even makes it more important, because now you have the power to remove somebody that you talked to before and say you didn't have hospital. That said, "Oh, I will give you hospital. I will make sure that we build hospital in the community," and they never did. Now they're running for a second term, and you're going to sit down and let them go back there so that you can be deprived of a hospital while people are dying in your community. So you guys really need to wake up. You need to wake up and understand that the power is yours to decide who leads you. And 2023 would be the time for that. Good neighborliness also means ensuring all members of the community are safe, healthy, and their daily basic needs are being met. Now, in our community, our parents knew one another and the children knew one another. Therefore, it was easy to track a kid in the community who was not a resident of the community. In those days, also, many children were from homes under the rigid supervision of our parents. Each child was expected to behave appropriately in public and at home. No talking back to elders, parents, or elders or parents when they were speaking to you. Your duty was to remain quiet and keenly listen to what your parents or guardians were saying to you. No talking back and this and that. And also, those days too, sometimes if your parents didn't have it, there were children who felt in a situation where their parents sometimes could not even afford, one meal a day. And most of the times, we will invite, our friends to come and eat. Sometimes if they don't have place to stay, we'll talk to our parents, talk to my mom, say, "Oh, well, this friend doesn't have place to stay. His parents cannot afford it, or his parents don't, or are struggling, or they don't live, in Morovia, and he needs place to stay to go to school." So most of the time, our parents were neighborly. They were helpful. They would make accommodation for this person that you consider your friend and or your brother, to come and live in the family, and the family will take responsibility to take care of that child. And sometimes you will grow up with the person as your brother or as your sister. So a lot of that has gone on, been going on, in the different communities and families in Liberia for ages. And that's part of our culture, helping one another, and being good neighbors to one another. That's very important. It was customary for a neighbor in my day to send her child to Miss Lucy to see if she could kindly borrow her some chicken soup because she is cooking her Edo soup and she wants it to be tastier. Mom also asks child to tell Miss Lucy she can have some of the Edo soup if she wants. Our parents exchanged pleasantries, and the children in the community felt like one big and happy family. So also part of what our parents did, in the past also was that, because our parents were friendly, Jeanine, how you doing today? My sister, all right. Well, I see you for days, man. Yes, I've been kind of busy, or I've been under the weather. I said, oh, I didn't know. Hey, man, I'm so sorry, man. And sometimes when they knew that a neighbor wasn't feeling well, they would visit the neighbor. Find out how you doing. What can we do to help and do this and that. That's part of our national spirit. That's part of our culture. Why you sit down and see other people catching hard time, especially when you can afford it, you can't even offer a hand of assistance, you know, uh, uh, and, and why haven't we, Liberians really learned our lesson to understand that all the stuff that we try to grab in life, that when God takes our breath away, we leave everything behind. You don't carry anything with you except for your body that rots and turns into dust from which it came. This is time for sober reflection. The other thing that I see we have problem with in present day Liberia has to do with, being sincere. But as a cultural technician, I do have an explanation why most people are hypocrites in the Liberian society. And this is the reason why. As I wrote here, I said another value system parents back in the day taught some of us is to be sincere and just in your dealings with people. As a result, our parents set high standards for us to emulate. Standards were rules and regulations and several steps of activities that were used as benchmarks to determine if someone has the requisite knowledge and physical ability, not only for disciplinary purposes, but also to build integrity within the personality of each youth. We're talking about integrity. Or say integrity, what do we mean? Integrity. Integrity means an honorable disposition. You can be trusted. When you say something, your word is your bond. That's part of what integrity is. Trustworthiness, respectability. So that is so very, very important, because that's when you make the decision that someone merits whatever it is that you are, giving them. People must merit something before you give it to them so that they can value it because they've worked for it. People must work for something. They must try for it. If it requires that they get the appropriate education, they must get the appropriate education before society awards that person that position or that opportunity. They must establish trusted merit system, because that will encourage and motivate everyone to work hard, to work harder for what they want to achieve in life. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for listening to this edition, episode 5, that has to do with good neighborliness and establishing a just merit system. Next week, we will continue with this trend of discussion and hopefully, move into preparing you for us to do a little bit of civic education when we will be talking about the history and culture of Liberia, and also what kind of governmental system we have. What is the role of those who are the voters like yourselves? What is the role of the citizens like yourselves? And what is the role of those you elect? What is the interaction, the relationship between you, the electors, and the elected, those that you elect? Who has authority to remove those that you elect, and who has authority to put into power those you elect? Those questions, you need to understand them moving forward, because 2023 is going to be a very, very crucial time in Liberia with respect to making the decision regarding who should lead you, how should our government be run, how should the national development program be structured in Liberia, and what it is that we can do to work together, not as enemies, but as brothers and sisters from the same country, not as enemies, but as good neighbors. And also to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, to love our fellow Liberians as we love ourselves. I want to leave you with this message that the Lord instructs us in the Holy Bible to love our neighbors as ourselves. This has been another edition of the Dati Civic and Peace Education Audiovisual Series, Episode 5, Good Neighborliness and a Just Merit System. I am your presenter and host, Rabbi Dr. Joe Tomongalade Baba Sr., saying thank you for listening and goodbye for now.